The fact that we got a Mosquito, well, I mean, what more could you want?
Beautiful aircraft, lovely to fly. You felt you were on air.
One had doubts originally because it was entirely made of wood, and you thought, well, can this stand up to action that's required? You know, high altitude, flying through storms, would it take flak damage? Well, it did all of those things, and an extremely well made airplane.
The Germans were quite terrified of mosquitoes. They used to call them the Holzschnager, it means the wooden killer.
In a Mosquito, the pilot and navigator sat side by side, navigator slightly behind the pilot.
I liked the idea that I was sitting next to the pilot, I know what was going on.
Because of the interior design of the cockpit, everything was at hand and immediately accessible.
Conditions in the Mosquito were quite different from those in the heavy bombers because you're in a very confined space. And instead of having a very large chart table, we had a little board which came up on our knees, and it meant that everything had to be pinned onto the board because you couldn't afford to lose anything in the cockpit.
All we had for light was an angle poise lamp which came out the side. It had a tiny little bulb, and a pinhole in that cover was the only light you got. So you had to have damn good eyesight. It was always a question of revolving around the navigator. If you didn't find the place, you were wasting your time, weren't you?
Enemy close, coming up.
The Mosquitoes were very fast. Your navigation had to be much quicker.
3 minutes to alter course in a Sterling was 10 miles, but 3 minutes was 20 miles in the Mosquito.
There was no comfort anywhere. It was immensely cold. The calibration of the temperature gauge went round to -50. And when you got to 25, 26,000, it had gone round there and stuck on the end stop, couldn't go any further.
On one occasion on a training flight, my oxygen tube split, and I got up to about 8,000 feet and apparently passed out. Lack of oxygen. My navigator decided what had happened, put hold of the control column and got us back down to about 10,000 feet where I could breathe. It was quite remarkable. So I had a good navigator.
During the run up to the target, I'm going to try and aim to the left-hand side of the biggest building, and I want everyone to pack in as tight as they can there, and we'll all get across the target together. Now, I can't overemphasize the importance of these works to the Germans. Okay, take it away. So I want everyone to put forward their best effort to put the bombs right in the front doorstep.
The day that we did our only daylight operation, you do know that on a daylight one you're going to lose perhaps 1 or 2 aircraft, and on the Mark 6 that I flew in, the pilot would get into the aircraft first and then I would climb in after it. And as one of the ground crew, a very tall cockney, rejoicing in the nickname of Lofty, as he removed the ladder, there were literally tears in his eyes, and he said to me, "You will come back, sir, won't you?" And I said, "I jolly well hope so."
Good luck, sir.
We did lose them, and invariably it was on that last bit, when everybody had heads down on an instruments or radar, not looking out. You took no avoidance action. You couldn't, because you weren't looking out.
See, he blew up in front of us. I mean, I didn't see it, of course, I was on my radar, but when he told me, and I heard the bits of the aircraft coming back on us, I thought, if they hit their propellers, we're going to go down with them.
Looking back now, I flew 2 of the finest aircraft in the world, the Spitfire and the Mosquito, and I got paid for doing it. Anybody who's ever flown a Mosquito would admit that that's one of the greatest experiences they have had. It was very forgiving, it was very versatile, it was safe. You could fly, as we did, from way down in the Bay of Biscay back to England on one engine, doing so perfectly safely. A wonderful piece of woodwork.